Great. Welcome to Module 4, where we build an ideal customer profile and persona documentation. So this is going to be the other two legs of our GTM framework, or at least the initial GTM framework. And for this module, we want to design who our ideal customers are and also generate our 3 key personas using prompt chains. So in this, you're going to see kind of how we get ChatGPT to do some work. And once we have our GPT built, it'll have context, necessary context it can use to build things for us. But for right now, using a blank generic GPT, it can only do so much. So, put yourself in the mindset that you're in charge of making go-to-market materials for AnyQuest. AnyQuest, as you know, makes it easy to make AI agents and workflows without coding skills or even deep AI knowledge. So we're going to get this overview information put into ChatGPT. Okay, so right now we have a GPT, a generic GPT that we've populated with some basic information. Now this information will stay throughout the duration of this chat, which could last for a number of days. But remember, it also has a finite context window of a certain amount of, let's call them words, or in AI language, tokens. When you run out of these, it starts to make stuff up or forget things. So a chat can't be endlessly long, but we're well within the bounds right now. Each model has its own sort of context limit, so it kind of depends on what you're using. But once again, in this case, we're going to be totally fine. Just know there is a token limit. So if it turns out you're using a chat for too long and it starts making up crazy talk, it probably is out of context window and you should start a new chat. So let's make it build an ideal customer profile. I've prepared a prompt for you that you can customize to build your own ICP. But here's one that I've got that's kind of formatted in what they call Markdown. See these? This is a heading, this is a bullet. Markdown's a pretty good format to help a chat GPT know the structure of your prompt. Because when you have lots of words and those words have meaning, it can sometimes not be sure what you're saying. So by adding in some helpful formatting like this, and you don't have to get really crazy, you can provide a way that it understands what to do. So for example, for task, I might just put 1. And that way that's a top heading in Markdown, but let's not get too into Markdown. So basically, ChatGPT is going to be told here what to do to create an ICP. I've asked it to research and then fill out the criteria for our ICP document. Let's see what it comes up with.
A few moments later.
ICP1, mid-market SaaS company, VC-backed scaling AI. I like that. It's a VC-backed mid-market company generating 10 to 100 million with 100 to 500 employees located in North America or Western Europe. These employees are in a scale-up phase. These companies are in a scale-up phase, often growing rapidly and aiming to optimize operations, customer success, or marketing. They are early adopters of AI and already experimenting with tools like ChatGPT, Zapier, and Slack integrations, but struggle with siloed workflows and inconsistent results. Now, I think if you look at what we put into the initial prompts, it has done its own research here. And it's up to us to validate whether that research is what we want to continue with. It's really important to know that with AI, there must be a human in the loop to validate that what's happening actually makes sense. Because AI will give you an answer, but it's probably not the answer you want unless you were very careful about how you got there. So in this case, my next step would be to do a manual pass here and pull anything out that doesn't make sense. One tip I like to do is I'll ask it for multiple versions. So in this case, I asked it for 2 or 3 ICPs, and it came up with 3. It would be no drama to find one that maybe was subpar or really didn't add much, and I can just whack it, and now I have 2 examples. So you'll notice if you watch me do AI a lot, I'm often asking for 3 versions, 10 versions, depending on what it is, because I find that I can do my best work by Mr. Potato Heading content versus starting with a blank piece of paper. So for now, I'm going to save this. Great. The next thing that we need are personas. Now let's work with this in a bit more of an iterative fashion. So I'm going to say, describe the type of buyers who would purchase any quest. Why don't we start there and see what happens? So buyers of any quest typically fall into the category of innovation-focused, operations-driven leaders who are tasked with scaling AI initiatives beyond experimentation. That is actually great. They're not just looking for cool tech, they need tangible business outcomes like increased efficiency, reduced manual effort, and consistent AI output across departments. This is pitch perfect. Now, if you dig through the materials, you can see where we sort of hinted in that it should come up with this, but I believe this is a great example of how ChatGPT has used what we've provided and then done some additional work on top of that that aligns with what we want. So let's look at these personas. So I now have 4 of these. Let's see. Please make buyer persona one-pagers. Okay, it's completed the buyer personas, so why don't we go ahead and look at these and see what it came up with. The first one is the Strategic CIO or CTO. They want a scalable infrastructure, less reliance on specialized AI engineers for everyday automation. That tracks. They want to align AI efforts with enterprise-wide digital transformation. That tracks. Ooh, pain points, disconnected AI pilots and inconsistent results. That is absolutely a pain point. Remember, the job of a CTO is to stay CTO, and you don't get there through a whole bunch of busted pilots not getting anything done. Lack of visibility and governance. This is also a big deal right now. This is one we did not necessarily provide at the front. Just going to keep skating here. The second one is a RevOps leader. I'm not so sure about this one. Head of operations, maybe. They're focused on high effort and recurring tasks. Yeah, I can see that. QBR prep, that's true. Salespeople should be selling, not getting through reports. Triaging tickets. Okay, so this might actually work. It's not what I thought at first, but I like it. It's actually not too bad. The third one is an innovation or digital transformation leader. Yes, that makes sense. Digital transformation people are looking for wins after a very rough decade. Yep, and the skeptical but practical CFO or IT security stakeholder. I don't like this one. We're getting rid of it. We'll stick with 3. Okay, we'll put that in our document repository. Now let's build personas as part of the sales cycle. So I'm going to paste in a short prompt. It says create 3 personas involved in the sales cycle for purchasing enterprise AI enablement from any quest. We have our decision maker, our champion, and our skeptic, and let's just make some personas with guidelines. All right, so that's finished. Let's take a quick look. So the strategic CIO, a CIO or a VP of technology. Yes, that makes sense. Just kind of scanning here and making sure things look good. Head of innovation looks good. The skeptic, yeah, these would be the skeptics. I definitely like that. Now let's add in some helpful information to help ChatGPT know how to write for these people. So we're going to paste in a short prompt that says, now think about how to write web copy that speaks to this audience. Focus on clarity, outcomes, and how AnyQuest simplifies AI adoption. What tone, structure, and meshing resonate most? Add a section to each of the 3 personas. Okay, so it's made some updates. Let's look at what the updates for web copy are. Now I picked web copy because that helps focus in that usually web copy needs to be short and scannable and things like that. We can use web copy style things for brochures and other types of material too, but this gives it a good way to focus. So let's just see here. Remember, we're looking for anything we don't like because we want to change it before we put it inside of our custom GPT. Okay. Okay, it's offering to make web copy, but I'm not ready for that. Make the personas. Here's our buyer personas with the web copy strategy put in there. Let's just make sure everything looks good. Looks like it does. It added in all the different elements we needed. Let you go ahead and scan that if you want to. Okay, so that wraps up Module 4. Module 5 is coming up. Now your brand has a voice. So we're going to teach ChatGPT how to speak in your voice. So firstly, we'll analyze your brand's writing style. Is it formal? Is it casual? Is it persuasive? Then we're going to build a custom brand voice guide for consistent content. And then learn when you need to be the human in the loop. Remember, without direction, AI writes just like AI, robotic, wordy, and flat. But with the right inputs, it can sound just like you. See you in the next module.